Hi, it's Chad Herman, motivating for positive change. I was out shopping today. You probably remember the mall video, and if you don't, you should go check it out. It's all about people and the way that we spend money that we could totally be using our money for good. Remember, vote with your money. If you don't buy the stuff, the company doesn't make money, and maybe they'll do some changes. But that's not what this is about. Okay, so I was shopping, and I saw this parent who had three kids. It's really simple, and this lady screamed at her children no less than 10 to 15 times each. That means 45 times. I was only there for like maybe 30 minutes and she screams at them 45 times. That's more than once per minute. The only thing that we had to hear as the whole time I'm shopping through this store was this woman screaming at her children. Folks, that's verbal abuse. Verbal abuse. When you scream at your children, when you scream at people, when you scream at anywhere, anybody, that's verbal abuse. Why don't we get this? Verbal abuse goes into your brain, it goes into the brain, right? And then it starts to knock around there. Verbal abuse will actually chomp up pieces of your brain. Remember, there was a study that a Japanese scientist did, God, I think it was like 50 years now, in the 80s. No, that'd be 40 years. In the 80s, and he treated water in specific ways. And it was only with his voice and with the volunteer's voice. And then he would put on the piece of water, right on the piece of water, he put a piece of tape with the emotion that was being given to that water. So the happy water would be like, "Hi, how are you, water? It's such a happy day, water." And the mean water, he'd be like, "Why?" Right? So he's doing all this nasty stuff to the water. When they opened up the water and actually looked at the water crystals, they would amazing stuff. Look this stuff up. I'm going to see if I can put it on my channel. But look this stuff up. The water crystals with the happy, positive things were gorgeous. And they're beautiful, just growing crystals. The ones with negative, they're actually falling apart crystals. They had edges and nastiness, and they're actually falling apart. We are mostly water. So when you're talking to somebody, guess what? If you're not smiling and you're not having a cordial, happy conversation, you're hurting them. Verbal abuse is probably the worst abuse in our world right now. Number one, but number two, it's the most often used. When we call people names, bam, that's a verbal abuse. When we yell at people, it's verbal abuse. Even if you're playing, yelling comes through as abrasive, as nasty. You can't do it. And this lady, to her children, just gave them at least each 15 times each of verbal abuse. What do you think these kids are going to turn out like? What do you think they're going to see? What do you think they're going to feel? They're going to feel and see this abrasiveness. They're going to feel like they are not worth anything. They're going to have to take and create something else to build their own worth because their parent hasn't given it to them. So how do you create and build worth? You lose your own self-esteem and you have others build it for you. So therefore, you're not really a whole person inside. You're dependent on other people. You're dependent on other people for your happiness. You're dependent on other people for your goals, your future, everything. You become completely codependent. Not only that, you might choose violence as a way to create some sort of connection with the general world. So now you have a violent person, no emotions, hates the world, and is hollow. Oh my, what did we just create? We created somebody who sees things as reality and only the great thing. We see people that are violent because violence is normalized in their world. And we also see a lack of love and a lack of acceptance, a lack of understanding. Why don't we as adults get it that we are talking to the future? We are talking to the little time machines. These little people have showed up right in front of us to say, guess what? We're from the future. Teach us so we can create that future when we go back. It's just going to take them 20 years to get to that future. And then we're gone and they create it. Look around you. All of the adults that are making the decisions of today were taught these decisions were good yesterday. People in the 70s, people in the 50s were teaching these children how to think, and what was the right idea. So these are the legislations and rules that we're creating today. If you look at the future, we're slowly getting better in little tiny itsy bitsy pieces. We could totally get better if we just talk to our children in better ways and showed them that they have power, number one, they have power to change the world, number two, and number three, that they are valued, that they actually have a value in this world. Stop yelling at your kids. It's the best idea I can give you. And teach them value. You are talking to little time travelers. Change the world. Motivatingforpositivechange.com.